I gave birth in chains because facial recognition software failed. I woke up to pounding on my front door at 11:47 p.m. Not knocking, pounding. I'd fallen asleep on the couch again, 7 months pregnant and too exhausted to make it to my bedroom. Devin was already in bed, hopefully still asleep through whatever this was. Police! Open up now! My heart stopped. I struggled to my feet, one hand on my belly, the other reaching for the door. The second I unlocked it, 6 officers pushed their way in. Guns drawn, flashlights blinding me. Marissa Chen, you're under arrest for armed robbery. The voice came from a man in a suit, detective something. I couldn't process his name because nothing he was saying made sense. What? What robbery? I've never robbed anyone in my life. Prestige Jewelers, 6:15 p.m. today, shot fired, $43,000 in merchandise stolen. I stared at him. I was at my prenatal appointment at 6:15. I have proof. I have receipts. This is a mistake. He wasn't listening. He was reading me my rights while another officer pulled my arms behind my back. The handcuffs bit into my wrists. That's when Devin screamed. My 8-year-old son ran out of his bedroom in his Superman pajamas, eyes wild with terror. He saw the guns. He saw his pregnant mother in handcuffs. He started sobbing. Mommy! He tried to run to me, but an officer caught him by the shoulders. Don't touch him, I yelled. He's 8 years old. Mrs. Patterson from next door appeared in my doorway, her robe pulled tight. Marissa, what's happening? Call my sister, I screamed as they pulled me toward the door. Please, tell her to come get Devin. Devin was crying so hard he couldn't breathe. I'd never heard him make sounds like that, like an animal caught in a trap. It's okay, baby. Mommy didn't do anything wrong. This is a mistake. I'll be home soon. I didn't know I was lying. The last thing I saw before they put me in the squad car was my son reaching for me, Mrs. Patterson holding him back, both of them crying. The intake officer at county jail looked at my belly and frowned. How far along? 32 weeks. You'll see the jail nurse tomorrow. Tomorrow, like I was staying here. They made me strip in front of 2 female officers. 7 months pregnant, under fluorescent lights. They checked everywhere. I'd never felt so humiliated in my life. The paperwork came next. Charge, armed robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, bail, $250,000. I made $16.50 an hour at Target. I had $847 in my checking account. When do I see a judge? First appearance is in 11 days. Court's backlogged. My vision tunneled. 11 days? I'm innocent. I was at the hospital during this robbery. I have proof. The officer didn't even look up. Everyone says that. Tell it to your lawyer. I have a prenatal appointment next week. I have a son who needs me. You can't keep me here for 11 days. Ma'am, if you can't make bail, you stay until your hearing. Those are the rules. They put me in a cell with 3 other women. The bunks were metal. The mattress was 2 inches thick. The baby kicked and kicked like he knew something was wrong. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Devin's face, heard him screaming for me. One of my cellmates rolled over around 3 a.m. What did you do? Nothing. They think I robbed a jewelry store. She laughed. Not a mean laugh. A tired one. Yeah, that's what I said too. Day 3. A public defender named Rachel Simmons came to see me. She looked about 26. Tired. A coffee stain on her shirt. Marissa Chen? She sat down and opened a folder thick with papers. I have 87 active cases right now, so I'm going to be direct with you. They have you on facial recognition, 94% match. What does that mean? Store security camera footage ran through police AI software. It identified you as the robber. I felt cold all over. That's impossible. I was at Metro General Hospital. I have my appointment card. I have a parking receipt. Everything's in my purse at home. Rachel made notes. Okay, I'll request all the evidence, but Marissa, I need you to understand, these facial recognition systems are pretty accurate. The DA's office loves these tech cases, makes them look modern and efficient. I'm telling you I didn't do this. She looked at me then, really looked at me. I believe you, she said quietly. But believing you and proving it are 2 different things. What about my son? Where is he? Your sister picked him up, but CPS was notified of your arrest. That's standard procedure when there's a child involved in a felony case. The baby kicked hard. A sharp pain shot through my side and I gasped. Rachel leaned forward. You okay? I need to get out of here. This stress isn't good for the baby. I'm only 32 weeks. I'm working on it. But with your bail amount... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Rachel gathered her papers. I'll be back in a few days. Try to stay calm. After she left, I sat on that metal bunk with my hand on my belly. The baby kicked again, softer this time. I thought about the security footage, about a computer that looked at my face and said I was a criminal, about a system that believed a machine over hospital documents I hadn't even been allowed to show them yet. How do you prove you're innocent when a computer says you're guilty? That was the question that kept me awake for the next 8 nights. Nobody had an answer. 4 days later, Rachel came back. I was lying on my bunk when the guard called my name. I'd barely slept. The baby had been kicking nonstop, like he could feel my panic. Rachel looked different this time, less tired, almost excited. She sat down across from me in the visiting room and pulled out a stack of papers. Your sister came through, she said. She went to your apartment, found your purse, got everything we needed. She spread the documents on the table between us. Hospital appointment confirmation. My name printed at the top. Prenatal checkup. October 12th, 5:30 to 6:45 p.m. Dr. Patel's signature at the bottom. Parking garage ticket. Metro General Hospital. Entry timestamp. 5:18 p.m. Exit timestamp. 6:52 p.m. The hospital was 12 miles from Prestige Jewelers. I knew because I'd driven past that jewelry store 100 times on my way to work. Pharmacy receipt, hospital pharmacy, 6:38 p.m. Prenatal vitamins and iron supplements. My credit card number, last 4 digits visible. Rachel tapped the papers. This is solid, Marissa. The robbery happened at 6:15 p.m. You were physically impossible to be there. You were at a hospital 12 miles away with time-stamped proof. Something cracked open in my chest. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. So they'll let me go? I'm filing an emergency motion to dismiss today. With evidence this strong, they should drop the charges immediately. I press my hands flat on the table to stop them from shaking. When? There's a hearing scheduled in 2 days. I'll present everything. The judge will see you have an ironclad alibi. And then I can go home? I can see Devin? Rachel hesitated, just for a second, but I caught it. What? The bail is still an issue. Even if the judge is convinced, he might not dismiss the charges outright. He might just reduce your bail. To how much? I don't know, maybe 50,000, maybe less. 50,000 might as well have been $1 million, but it was something. It was more than I'd had 10 minutes ago. Okay, I said. Okay, what do I need to do? Nothing. Just sit tight. Let me handle this. After she left, I went back to my cell. My cellmate, the one who'd laughed at me that first night, looked up from her book. Good news? Maybe, I said. My lawyer found proof I was somewhere else when the robbery happened. She nodded slowly. That's good. That's real good. You sound like you don't believe me. I believe you, she said. I've just been here long enough to know that what should happen and what does happen are 2 different things. I lay down on my bunk and stared at the ceiling. The baby kicked, softer now, like he was tired too. For the first time in 7 days, I let myself imagine walking out of here, hugging Devin, sleeping in my own bed, going back to work like none of this ever happened. I shouldn't have. Hope is a dangerous thing when you're locked in a cage. 2 days later, they wheeled a monitor into the visiting room so I could appear at my hearing via video. I hadn't showered in 9 days. My hair was greasy. The orange jumpsuit hung loose everywhere except my belly. On the screen, I could see the courtroom. Rachel sat at the defense table. The prosecutor, a woman in a navy suit, sat across from her. And in the back, Detective Halloran, the man who'd put handcuffs on me in front of my son. The judge looked about 60, gray hair, reading glasses. Ms. Simmons, you filed an emergency motion to dismiss? Rachel stood. Yes, Your Honor. My client has an ironclad alibi. She was at Metro General Hospital during the robbery, 12 miles away, with time-stamped documentation. She held up the papers. The parking ticket, the appointment confirmation, the pharmacy receipt. Ms. Chen was at a prenatal appointment from 5:30 to 6:45 p.m. The robbery occurred at 6:15 p.m. She has a parking garage entry at 5:18 and exit at 6:52. She used her credit card at the hospital pharmacy at 6:38. It's physically impossible for her to have committed this crime. The prosecutor didn't even stand up. Your Honor, we'd like to call Detective Halloran. The detective walked to the witness stand like he had all the time in the world. Detective, the prosecutor said, can you explain the evidence against Ms. Chen? Facial recognition match, Halloran said. 94% confidence. That's higher than most cases we process through the system. My stomach dropped. Rachel jumped in. Your Honor, my client has hospital records proving she was 12 miles away. Halloran didn't even look at her. Records can be faked. The AI doesn't lie. It analyzed 68 facial data points. Bone structure, eye spacing, jaw width. The match is undeniable. But she has time-stamped proof. Technology doesn't have an agenda, counselor. It just processes data. And the data says she was there. The judge leaned forward. Detective Halloran, do you have any evidence against Ms. Chen besides the facial recognition? Halloran hesitated, just for a second. The system identified her, Your Honor. That is our evidence. No eyewitnesses? No fingerprints? No physical evidence placing her at the scene? The facial recognition is extremely reliable. We've successfully prosecuted dozens of cases using this technology. The judge looked at the papers Rachel had submitted, then at the screen showing my face. Ms. Simmons, I'm inclined to believe the technology. These systems have been vetted by experts. However, these hospital records are compelling. My heart started beating faster. I'm going to reduce bail to $50,000. The air went out of my lungs. 50,000. I didn't have 50,000. I didn't have 5,000. Your Honor, Rachel said. My client makes $16 an hour. She's 7 months pregnant. She can't afford. Bail is set at 50,000. Preliminary hearing in 30 days. The gavel came down. Just like that, it was over. Rachel turned to the camera. Marissa, it's something. We'll keep fighting. But I barely heard her. The guard came to wheel the monitor away. I stood there in that visiting room, hands on my belly, trying to understand what had just happened. I had proof. Actual proof. Time-stamped, documented, impossible to fake proof that I was somewhere else when the crime happened. And it didn't matter. The judge believed a computer over hospital records. The detective believed a percentage over a parking ticket with my license plate number on it. They wheeled me back to my cell in a wheelchair because my legs wouldn't work. My cellmate took one look at my face and didn't ask. I lay down on the metal bunk. The baby kicked. Once, twice. Like he was asking what was wrong. Everything, I thought. Everything is wrong. The system believed a machine that said I was guilty more than it believed documents proving I was innocent. And I had no idea how to fight that. The next morning at 4 a.m., I woke up to wetness soaking through my pants. For a second, I thought I'd wet myself. Then the cramping started, sharp, low, radiating across my entire belly. My water had broken. I was only 32 weeks. Guard, I screamed. Guard, I need help. The other women in my cell woke up. One of them started banging on the bars with me. She's pregnant. Get someone now. It took them 7 minutes to open the door. 7 minutes of contractions that kept getting closer together. They made me walk to the intake area. I had to stop twice, doubled over, gripping the wall. We're calling for transport, a guard said. County hospital is 15 minutes away. Another contraction hit. 8 minutes since the last one. The baby's coming too early, I gasped. Please, I need to get there now. They brought out handcuffs. Policy, the female guard said. She looked sorry, but she still clicked them around my wrists. Then the leg shackles. Metal cuffs around both ankles with a chain between them. I'm in labor, I said. I can barely walk. Policy for inmates in transport. The ambulance ride was a blur of pain. Every bump in the road sent another wave of cramping through me. I couldn't hold my belly because my hands were cuffed in front. I couldn't even brace myself. At the hospital, they wheeled me into a delivery room. Dr. Morrison came in, looked at me, looked at the shackles. Why is she restrained? The guard standing by the door straightened up. Policy for inmates, ma'am. She's in active labor at 32 weeks. This is a medical emergency. Dr. Morrison's voice was sharp. Remove the restraints. I can't do that without authorization. Then get authorization. Now. The guard made a phone call, then another, then a third. 45 minutes. It took 45 minutes of phone calls and arguments while I had contractions every 5 minutes. Finally, they took off the shackles. Dr. Morrison checked me. You're at 6 centimeters. Your stress levels are dangerously high. This baby is coming early because your body can't take this anymore. I can't have my baby in jail, I sobbed. I didn't do anything. I'm innocent. She looked at me with something like pity. I know, I read about your case in the news this morning. Then you know I was here. At this hospital, when they said I robbed that store. I know. She said it so simply, like it was obvious. But it didn't matter. Because I was still here, still in custody, still waiting to give birth to a baby 8 weeks too early because I'd spent 10 days in a jail cell for a crime I didn't commit. Labor lasted 16 hours. 16 hours of contractions. Of monitors beeping. Of doctors checking on me every 20 minutes because preterm labor is high risk. Marcus was born at 8:47 p.m., 4 pounds, 2 ounces. He didn't cry right away. They had to stimulate him. Rub his back, clear his airways. When he finally made a sound, it was barely a whimper. He needs to go to the NICU immediately, Dr. Morrison said. His lungs aren't fully developed. They let me hold him for maybe 30 seconds, long enough to see his tiny face, his closed eyes, the tubes already going into his nose. Then they took him away. I got 2 hours. 2 hours in a recovery room with a guard standing outside my door. Then Dr. Morrison came back with paperwork. I'm writing a medical recommendation for your release. Postpartum recovery. NICU access for bonding and breastfeeding. You need to be here with your baby. Will they listen? She hesitated. They should. They didn't. The judge denied it the next morning. Rachel called to tell me. He said the medical recommendation isn't sufficient grounds to override the bail requirement. I'm sorry, Marissa. They took me back to county jail that afternoon. I left my newborn son in the NICU, hooked up to machines, fighting to breathe, and I went back to a cell. The day after the CPS visit, a woman in a gray pantsuit came to see me. Jennifer Walsh, Child Protective Services caseworker. She sat across from me with a tablet and a manila folder with my name on it. Ms. Chen, we've opened an investigation into your fitness as a parent. I stared at her. What? You're charged with a violent felony. Your 8-year-old son witnessed your arrest. Your newborn is in the NICU at County Hospital. I'm innocent. I have proof. Hospital records that show. She held up her hand. That's for the courts to decide. My job is child safety. If you're convicted of armed robbery, you'll lose custody of both boys. The room tilted. But I didn't do it. Jennifer made a note on her tablet. Based on the charges, we've flagged your file as potentially dangerous parent. That stays on record regardless of trial outcome. What does that mean? It means even if you're acquitted, this investigation remains open for 6 months minimum. We'll be monitoring your home environment, conducting interviews, reviewing your parenting capacity. 6 months. Minimum. They've taken everything, I said. My voice broke. My freedom. My baby. Now my kids? Jennifer's expression didn't change. Ms. Chen, I understand this is difficult, but our priority is the children's well-being. If you cooperate with our process, things will go smoother. After she left, I sat in that visiting room until a guard came to take me back. My cellmate looked up when I came in. CPS? She asked. I nodded. My cousin got flagged by CPS 3 years ago, she said quietly. Charges got dropped after 6 months. She was innocent, but it took 2 years for them to close the case. 2 years of random home visits and interviews and psych evaluations. 2 years? They don't forget. Once you're in their system, you're always in their system. I lay down on my bunk. Marcus was in the NICU. Devin was having nightmares at my sister's house, and now CPS had both their names in a file that said I was dangerous. I'd lost everything, and I still had no idea how to get it back. 4 days later, my sister posted bail. She had to take out a second mortgage on her house, $12,000 to a bail bondsman who wouldn't give it back even when this was over. Rachel met me at the jail exit with a paper bag containing my clothes from the night I was arrested. They smelled like jail, like fear and disinfectant. David Chen wants to meet with you, Rachel said as she drove me to my sister's apartment. He's a lawyer at Legal Aid. I told him about your case. Another public defender? He's good. Really good, and he's pissed off about what happened to you. The Legal Aid office was in a strip mall next to a nail salon. David Chen's office was the size of a closet. Case files stacked everywhere. A dying plant on the windowsill. Coffee rings on every surface. He looked exhausted. 34 maybe. Dark circles under his eyes. Rachel Simmons referred you, he said, shaking my hand. She has 87 active cases. I have 63. We're both drowning. But this one pissed me off. He opened my file. Facial recognition evidence. That's it? That's their entire case? They won't believe my hospital records. David pulled up something on his laptop, turned it toward me. Police department press release from 8 months ago. Big headline. Department invests $2.3 million in cutting-edge crime-solving technology. Photos of the police chief shaking hands with some tech company executives. They spent $2.3 million on this AI system last year, David said. They need it to work. So they're protecting their investment? Exactly. If they admit it failed with you, every single case using this technology gets challenged. Defense lawyers across the county will start filing motions. The department looks incompetent, the city looks incompetent, and somebody has to answer for wasting $2.3 million. He leaned back in his chair, so they're going to fight you. Hard. Because letting you go means admitting the system is broken. What do? We prove the system is flawed. Not just for your case, for all of them. We show that this technology doesn't work the way they claim it does. How long will that take? David hesitated. Months. Maybe a year, and I can't promise we'll win. I thought about Marcus in the NICU. Devin asking when I was coming home. My sister's house with the new mortgage payment. CPS opening a file with my name on it. What choice do I have? David nodded slowly. None. You have no choice, which is exactly why we're going to fight like hell. Over the next 5 weeks, David worked on my case every night after finishing his paid caseload. He filed 23 separate Freedom of Information Act requests. He wanted the contract between the police department and ClearSight AI, the training data for the facial recognition algorithm, accuracy testing results, a list of every other case where the system had been used. Internal emails about the technology, 18 requests came back denied. Proprietary information, ongoing investigation, security risk. David appealed every single denial. More paperwork, more waiting, more delays. Meanwhile, my life was falling apart in slow motion. I went to the NICU every day to see Marcus. He was still too small to come home, 4 pounds 2 ounces at birth. Now 5 pounds 1 ounce at 3 weeks old, hooked up to monitors and feeding tubes. The nurses were kind. They let me hold him for an hour each visit. But I couldn't breastfeed properly because stress had dried up most of my milk, and I couldn't afford the hospital-grade pump they recommended. Devin was having nightmares. My sister told me he wet the bed 3 times last week. He clung to me whenever I picked him up from school, wouldn't let me out of his sight. Mommy, are the police coming back? No, baby, that was a mistake. But what if they're wrong again? I had no answer for that. Target wouldn't take me back. The arrest showed up on background checks. The manager wouldn't even return my calls. I applied to 11 other jobs. Gas stations, fast food, grocery stores, all number. The bills kept coming. Hospital bill for the premature delivery, $8,400. NICU charges, $12,000 and climbing. Bail bondsman fee, $3,200 that I'd never get back. My sister was paying for everything. Groceries, gas, Marcus's prescriptions. Her mortgage payment had jumped $640 a month because of the second mortgage she'd taken out for my bail. I could see the stress on her face, in the way she snapped at her husband, in how she stopped making eye contact with me at dinner. Week 9, David called me. We got one. One what? One FOIA request came through, the ClearSight AI contract. He came to my sister's apartment that night with a printed copy. We sat at the kitchen table. He turned to page 14. There was a clause buried in the legal language. Vendors shall not be held liable for technical errors, algorithm malfunctions, or incorrect identifications resulting from software use. Client assumes all liability for arrests and prosecutions based on vendor-provided technology. I read it 3 times. What does that mean? David leaned back. It means ClearSight AI made the police department sign away their right to sue if the technology screws up. They knew it could be wrong. They built protection into the contract. So they knew? They knew it wasn't perfect, and they sold it to the police anyway. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Can we use this? We can try. But it's not enough by itself. We need more. We need to prove the system is actually flawed, not just that the company protected themselves legally. He started packing up his papers. Keep your head down. Don't talk to anyone about the case. Don't post on social media. The DA's office will use anything against you. After he left, I sat at that table for a long time. My phone buzzed. A text from the NICU. Marcus had a good day. Gained ½ ounce. You can try feeding him by bottle tomorrow. ½ ounce. That's what I had. ½ ounce of progress while everything else crumbled around me. My son was fighting to breathe in a hospital. My other son was having nightmares. My sister was drowning in debt. And I had one document that proved a tech company knew their system could destroy innocent lives. It wasn't enough, but it was something. 2 weeks later, David called me with news. I found someone. Dr. Amara Okonkwo. She's a former Google AI engineer. Published a paper on racial bias in facial recognition systems. Will she help us? I'm going to call her. No promises. Dr. Okonkwo didn't call back for 2 weeks. I'd almost given up hope when David showed up at my sister's apartment one night, grinning like he'd won the lottery. She's in. She wants to testify. We met her at a coffee shop near the university. She was 41, wearing a blazer and glasses, carrying a laptop bag that looked like it weighed 20 pounds. She shook my hand, looked me right in the eyes. Tell me what happened. I told her everything. The arrest, the jail, Marcus born 8 weeks early, the hospital records that didn't matter because the computer said I was guilty. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she opened her laptop. I spent the last 2 weeks analyzing ClearSight AI's public materials, their marketing documents, their published accuracy rates, the technical specifications they share with law enforcement. She turned the screen toward us. Their training data is 78% white faces, 11% black faces, 6% Asian, 5% other. What does that mean? I asked. It means the algorithm learned what faces look like primarily from white people. When it tries to identify faces of color, it's working with much less training data. It makes more mistakes. David leaned forward. How many more mistakes? They don't publish that data. But based on similar systems I've analyzed, false positive rates for Black and Asian women can be 30 to 40% higher than for white men. I felt sick. They know this? Dr. Okonkwo pulled up another document. This is from their own marketing materials. See this line? Up to 99% accuracy under optimal conditions with cooperative subjects. What does that mean? It means their accuracy claims are based on controlled testing. Good lighting, direct camera angle, subject looking straight at the camera, but security camera footage is never optimal. Poor lighting, strange angles, people moving, faces partially obscured. She closed her laptop. Your case is exactly what I've been warning about for 3 years. This technology is being sold to police departments with inflated accuracy claims. And when it fails, innocent people pay the price. Will you testify? David asked. Yes, pro bono. I don't want payment. Why? She looked at me again. Because ClearSight AI has contracts with 47 police departments across 6 states. If we don't stop them here, this will keep happening. More arrests, more innocent people in jail, more families destroyed. After she left, I sat in David's car in the parking lot. Do you think it'll be enough? David started the engine. I don't know, but it's more than we had yesterday. That night, I held Marcus while he slept. 6 weeks old now, 6 pounds, 3 ounces, finally off the feeding tube, his tiny hand wrapped around my finger. I thought about Dr. Okonkwo, about a woman I'd never met who was willing to fight for me because she knew the system was broken, about how it shouldn't take a former Google engineer to prove I was innocent. But I'd take the help wherever I could get it, because fighting alone wasn't working. 3 weeks later, a reporter reached out to David, Rebecca Torres, 29 years old, investigative journalist for the Metro Daily Chronicle. David called me. She wants to interview you, says she saw your name in court filings and something about your case caught her attention. What if talking to her makes things worse? Or it makes someone pay attention? I thought about it for 2 days, then I said yes. Rebecca met me at a coffee shop near the hospital. She had a notebook, a phone for recording, and kind eyes. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about the arrest, about Devin screaming, about 11 days in jail while 7 months pregnant, about Marcus being born at 4 pounds 2 ounces because my stress levels were so high. She took notes the whole time, didn't interrupt once. Do you have proof you were at the hospital during the robbery? I showed her everything, the appointment card, the parking ticket with timestamps, the pharmacy receipt. She photographed each one. Can I meet Devin? My sister brought him to the coffee shop. He was quiet. Wouldn't look at Rebecca. Devin, can you tell me what happened the night your mom was arrested? He shook his head. That's okay. You don't have to. But then he spoke. So quietly, I almost didn't hear him. The police had guns. I thought they were going to shoot her. Rebecca wrote that down. Can I see Marcus? We went to the NICU. Marcus was 8 weeks old now, 7 pounds, finally breathing on his own. Rebecca stood at the incubator for a long time, just looking at him. He's beautiful. He shouldn't have been born yet, I said. I should have carried him to term. But the stress. This isn't your fault. She took a photo of Marcus, asked permission first. I said yes. 2 days later, she called. I wrote the story. I submitted it to my editor. And he rejected it. My stomach dropped. Why? He said there's not enough corroboration, that it sounds like you're just claiming innocence like every other defendant. But I have proof. You saw it. I know, I told him that. He said police technology is a big story in the city right now. The department just invested millions in this system. He won't go after them without more sources. I sat down on my sister's couch, put my head in my hands. So that's it? No, Rebecca said, that's not it. I'm going to keep digging. I'll find more sources. I'll find other cases. This story deserves to be told. Why do you care? She was quiet for a moment. Because I've covered too many stories where the system crushes innocent people and nobody does anything about it. I'm tired of it. After we hung up, I told David what happened. She's not giving up, I said, even though her editor said no. David nodded slowly. Good journalists don't. But we can't count on the media. We need to keep building our case either way. I understood what he meant. Hope was dangerous. Counting on someone else to save you was dangerous. But Rebecca Torres was still digging, and that was more than most people would do. A week later, David got an anonymous email. Subject line, you're on the right track. The message was short. Check the other cases. You're not the first. Attached was a list. 8 names, 8 dates, 8 case numbers. David called me immediately. Someone sent me a list of other people arrested using the same facial recognition system. Who? Anonymous email. But I cross-referenced the case numbers. They're all real. He read them to me over the phone. 3 cases dismissed after months of fighting. 2 people took plea deals. 3 still pending trial. I'm going to try to contact them, David said. What if they don't want to talk? Then they don't. But if even one of them does, we can prove this isn't just about you. We can show the system fails regularly. A week later, David's phone rang while we were meeting at his office. He answered, listened. His face went pale. I understand. Thank you for letting me know. He hung up. That was a lawyer from ClearSight AI. They're sending me a cease and desist letter. For what? Harassment. They claim I'm harassing their clients. But their clients are police departments. How are you harassing? I'm not, but they're trying to scare me, threatening a defamation lawsuit if I keep digging into their technology. I felt my chest tighten. What does that mean? David leaned back in his chair, smiled. Not a happy smile, an angry one. It means we're close to something. Companies don't send cease and desist letters unless you're making them nervous. So what do? We keep going. 3 weeks later, David called with bad news. The case got assigned to a judge, Harold Brennan. Is that bad? I looked him up. He's 58, former prosecutor, known as tough on crime. He's dismissed 2 similar challenges to police technology in the past year. David pulled up a news article on his laptop, turned it toward me. Quote from Judge Brennan 6 months ago, "We can't let criminals use technicalities to escape justice. Technology is making our streets safer." He already thinks technology is perfect, I said. Yeah. So he's not going to believe the system failed. Probably not. But I'm filing a motion to suppress the facial recognition evidence anyway. Hearing's in 3 weeks. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. Marcus was finally home from the NICU, 11 weeks old, 8 pounds now, sleeping in a bassinet next to my bed at my sister's apartment. I picked him up, held him against my chest. He was so small, so fragile. I thought about Judge Brennan, about Detective Halloran, about a system that believed a computer over a parking ticket with my license plate number on it. "What kind of world did I bring you into?" I whispered. Marcus made a little sound in his sleep. His tiny hand curled around my finger. I didn't have an answer, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let them take him from me without a fight. 3 weeks later. Week 22, the courtroom was packed. I sat next to David at the defense table. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on them. Detective Halloran was there, the DA, Patricia Nguyen, in a sharp gray suit, and in the back row, 3 lawyers in identical navy blazers. Clearsight AI's legal team. Judge Brennan walked in. Everyone stood. He looked exactly like his photo. Gray hair, hard eyes, the kind of face that had seen 1,000 defendants and believed maybe 10 of them. "Mr. Chen, you've filed a motion to suppress the facial recognition evidence." David stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Facial recognition is the sole evidence against my client, and it's unreliable, especially for women of color." He called Dr. Okonkwo to the stand. She walked up calmly, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. David asked her about her background, Google, AI research, her published papers on algorithmic bias. Then he got to the point. "Dr. Okonkwo, in your expert opinion, is Clearsight AI's facial recognition system reliable for identifying Black and Asian women?" "No, based on my analysis of their public materials, their system shows a 34% higher false positive rate for darker-skinned women compared to white men." The DA shot up. "Objection. This is pure speculation. Dr. Okonkwo doesn't work for Clearsight AI. She has no access to their internal data." Judge Brennan nodded. "Sustained. Dr. Okonkwo, do you have access to Clearsight's actual testing data?" "No, Your Honor. They've refused to release it." "Then your testimony is theoretical." Dr. Okonkwo's jaw tightened. "Your Honor, with respect, the company's refusal to release accuracy data is itself evidence. That's enough. The objection is sustained." David tried again. He presented my hospital records, the parking ticket, the pharmacy receipt, everything proving I was 12 miles away when the robbery happened. The DA stood up. "Your Honor, Ms. Chen could have hired someone to commit the robbery, someone who resembles her. The facial recognition match is remarkable, 94% confidence." Judge Brennan pulled up the security footage on his monitor. He stared at it for a long time, then he looked at me. "I can see why the system flagged her. The similarity is striking." My stomach dropped. Motion to suppress is denied. Facial recognition can be used as evidence at trial. The jury will decide its credibility. David stood. "Your Honor, my ruling stands, Mr. Chen. Trial is set for 6 months from today." The gavel came down. Just like that, it was over. David packed up his papers. Wouldn't look at me. Outside the courtroom, I finally spoke. He didn't even consider it. "No." Dr. Okonkwo explained everything. The bias, the error rates, the bad training data. "I know." And he didn't care. David stopped walking, turned to face me. "He cares about technology. He believes it's making the world safer. And he's not going to be the judge who lets a criminal go because of some expert saying the computer might be wrong. But I'm not a criminal." I know that, but he doesn't. I sat down on a bench outside the courthouse, put my head in my hands. 6 more months. 6 more months of CPS breathing down my neck. 6 more months of bills I couldn't pay. 6 more months of Devin asking when this would be over. And at the end of it, a trial. Where a jury would look at security footage and see my face, or someone who looked like me, and decide if that was enough to send me to prison for 15 years. 2 weeks after the hearing, the DA called David with an offer. Plea deal. David came to my sister's apartment that night to explain it. They're offering theft over $5,000, reduced from armed robbery. What does that mean? 3 years probation, 500 hours community service, $15,000 in restitution. I stared at him. No jail time? No jail time. For a second, I felt relief. Then I understood. But I'd have to plead guilty. Yes. To a crime I didn't commit. David nodded. It would be a felony on your record, permanently. The relief died. What happens with a felony record? David pulled out a sheet of paper. He'd written it all down. You can't vote. You can't get public housing. Most employers won't hire you. You can't work in healthcare, education, government, can't get professional licenses. Some apartments won't rent to you. I looked at the list. My future crossed out line by line. But I'd be free? Yes. And CPS wouldn't take my kids? Probably not. The charges would be resolved, you'd have a conviction, but you wouldn't be fighting a trial. I didn't sleep that night, or the next night, or the night after that. Marcus was 4 months old, still waking up 3 times a night, still behind on his milestones because he was born so early. Devin was wetting the bed again, having nightmares where police broke down the door. My sister's husband stopped talking to me. I heard him through the walls at night. How much longer? We can't afford this. The medical bills were at $23,000 now. Collections agencies calling every day. I couldn't get a job. Every application came back rejected once they ran the background check. Week 26, I told David I wanted to take the deal. We met at a coffee shop. I couldn't say it at my sister's apartment, couldn't say it where Devin might hear. I want to take it. David set down his coffee. Are you sure? If I go to trial and lose, I go to prison for 8 to 15 years. CPS takes both my boys, forever. But you're innocent. I know that, but what if the jury doesn't believe me? What if they see that security footage and decide the computer is right? My voice cracked. 3 years probation is better than 15 years in prison. At least I'd be with my kids. David was quiet for a long time. This is exactly what they want. They know their case is weak, they know you have an alibi, so they offer you a deal that sounds reasonable. No jail time, just probation. But you lose everything anyway. I know. You'll have a felony record for the rest of your life, for a crime you didn't commit. I know. Marissa. He leaned forward. Give me 2 more weeks. Let me try something first. What? I filed a subpoena for ClearSight AI's internal documents. I'm waiting for a ruling. If we get those documents, if we find proof the company knew their system was flawed, we can win this. And if we don't, then you can take the plea deal. It'll still be on the table. I thought about it. 2 more weeks, 14 more days of my sister's husband glaring at me, 14 more days of collection calls, 14 more days of Devin asking when this would be over. Okay, I said finally. 2 weeks. David nodded. 2 weeks. But I didn't believe it would matter, because the system wasn't designed for people like me to win. Those 2 weeks felt like 2 years. David filed his subpoena for ClearSight AI's internal documents. The company fought back immediately with an emergency motion to quash it. There was a hearing. Different judge this time. Judge Maria Santos. David told me about it afterward. ClearSight AI sent their big guns. Richard Pembroke, 52 years old, partner at some national law firm, flew in from D.C. just for this hearing. Our proprietary algorithms are trade secrets, Your Honor, Pembroke said. Releasing them would destroy our competitive advantage. David stood up. A woman's freedom depends on whether this technology works. The public has a right to know if the system they're trusting with arrests is accurate. Judge Santos looked at both of them for a long moment. I'll review the documents privately in chambers. If they're relevant to Ms. Chen's case, they'll be produced. If not, they stay sealed. 3 weeks of waiting. 3 weeks of watching my sister's face get tighter every time a bill came in the mail. 3 weeks of Marcus crying at night and me wondering if he could feel my stress through my skin. 3 weeks of Devin asking why we couldn't go home yet. Week 29, David called. We got them. I almost dropped the phone. Judge Santos ordered limited production, internal emails only. The algorithms stay protected, but we got emails. How many? 847 pages. He came over that night with Dr. Okonkwo. They spread the printed emails across my sister's dining room table. This is going to take time, Dr. Okonkwo said. We need to read every single one. They worked for 3 days, 60 hours total. I brought them coffee, made them sandwiches, watched them highlight and tag and cross-reference. Day 3, Dr. Okonkwo stopped reading, just sat there staring at a page. David. He came over, read over her shoulder. I watched his face change. What is it? David turned the paper toward me. Email chain from 6 months before my arrest. From Michael Tao, senior engineer, to VP of product. Accuracy testing shows persistent issues with false positives for Black and Asian females. Error rate is 34% higher than white male baseline. Recommend we flag this for law enforcement clients before expanding contracts. Response from VP of product. Noted. Let's discuss in quarter 3. Don't put this in any client-facing materials. I read it 3 times. They knew. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. They knew the system was broken, 6 months before you were arrested, and they didn't tell anyone. They sold it anyway, David said. They sold it to 47 police departments knowing it would falsely identify women like you at a rate 34% higher than white men. I sat down. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Can we use this? Yes. David was already on his phone. This changes everything. He called the DA's office right there. Asked to speak to Patricia Nguyen. We have new evidence. Internal ClearSight, AI emails showing they knew about accuracy problems and hid them from law enforcement. I'm filing an emergency motion tomorrow. I couldn't hear what she said, but I could see David's face. He was smiling. For the first time since I'd met him, David Chen was actually smiling. After he hung up, he turned to me. The plea deal is off the table. We're not taking it. What if? No. We have proof now. Real proof. Not just expert testimony, not just your alibi. Proof that the company knew their system would falsely identify women like you and they sold it anyway. Dr. Okonkwo was reading through more emails. There's more here. They did internal testing, found the same bias, discussed fixing it, decided it was too expensive. She looked at me. They chose profit over accuracy, over justice, over you. I thought about Detective Halloran, about Judge Brennan, about everyone who believed the computer over me. They didn't know the computer was programmed to fail people who looked like me. Now we could prove it. 2 weeks after finding those emails, CPS came back. Jennifer Walsh walked into my sister's living room with a man I'd never seen before. This is my supervisor, Frank Delgado. Frank didn't smile, didn't shake my hand, just sat down on the couch and opened a folder. Miss Chen, we need to discuss safety planning. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? Jennifer looked at Frank. He nodded. We're recommending supervised visitation only until your case is resolved. I stared at them. What? My kids live with me. You're facing trial for a violent crime. Marcus is medically fragile due to premature birth. Devin's therapist reported he's showing signs of trauma. Because he watched police arrest me for something I didn't do. Frank's expression didn't change. That's not our concern. Our concern is the boys' immediate safety. They're safe with me. I've never hurt them. I would never. You're charged with armed robbery and assault with a deadly weapon. Until those charges are resolved, we have a duty to protect these children. Jennifer pulled out more paperwork. We can't remove them without a court order. But we're filing a petition for a dependency hearing. When? 4 weeks. 4 weeks. 1 month to prove I wasn't dangerous to my own children. After they left, I called David. Even if I win the criminal case, I could lose my kids? CPS operates on preponderance of evidence, lower standard than criminal court. They just need to show it's more likely than not that there's risk. But I have an alibi. We have those emails proving the system was wrong. I know, but CPS doesn't care about the emails. They care that you were arrested, that you're facing charges, that Devin witnessed it and now wets the bed. I hung up and sat on my sister's couch. Walls closing in from every direction. Medical bills now at $23,000. Collections agencies calling 3 times a day. I stopped answering the phone. Couldn't find work. Every job application came back rejected once they ran my background check. Arrest pending trial. My sister's husband cornered me in the hallway that night. We need to talk about how much longer you can stay here. I'm trying to find a job. Your case could drag on for months. We can't afford to support 3 extra people that long. My sister appeared behind him. Tom, not now. When then? When our mortgage is in default? He walked away. My sister wouldn't look at me. I'm sorry, I said. I know. But sorry wasn't enough. Sorry didn't pay her mortgage. Sorry didn't give me back the life I had before Detective Halloran knocked on my door. That night, I lay in bed with Marcus sleeping next to me. 6 months old now. Finally hitting his milestones. Finally gaining weight. And CPS wanted to take him away because a computer made a mistake. I thought about the plea deal, 3 years probation, felony record, but I'd keep my kids, or I could fight. Risk trial, risk losing everything. Either way, I'd already lost. The system had made sure of that the night they arrested me. A week later, the local news ran a story. I was feeding Marcus when my sister called me into the living room. You need to see this. The police chief was on TV. Full uniform, American flag behind him. These facial recognition systems have helped us solve 43 cases in 18 months. They're valuable tools that make our community safer. The reporter asked, what about Marissa Chen's case? I can't comment on active cases, but I trust my detectives and I trust our technology. The segment ended. Then ClearSight AI's statement scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Our facial recognition technology meets industry standards. False accusations are common defense tactics by defendants seeking to avoid accountability. My sister muted the TV. Don't read the comments. I read them anyway. Over 300 comments on the news station's website. If she's innocent, why is she fighting so hard? Guilty people always claim police brutality. Probably trying to get a settlement, scam artist. These tech systems are more accurate than human witnesses. She needs to accept responsibility. Another criminal playing the race card. I felt sick. These people didn't know me, didn't know I had hospital records, didn't know about the emails we'd found, didn't know anything except what the police chief told them. And they believed him. Rebecca Torres called that afternoon. I saw the news segment. I'm trying to get my editor to run your side of the story. Will he? He says not without more sources. Right now, it's he said, she said. Police chief versus defendant. He won't touch it. We have emails. Proof the company knew their system was broken. I know, I told him. He wants to wait until there's a ruling, until it's official. After she hung up, I sat there holding Marcus. The police department was protecting itself. ClearSight A, I was protecting its profits, and I was just someone they could throw away to keep their story clean. Nobody cared that I was innocent. They cared that admitting I was innocent would cost them money. The CPS dependency hearing was in week 35. I sat in a conference room at family court, Jennifer Walsh on one side, her supervisor Frank on the other, David next to me. They asked questions. How was I providing for the children? Where was I living? What was my income? I don't have income. I can't find work. Why not? Because the arrest shows up on background checks. Frank made a note. They asked about Devin's therapy, about Marcus's developmental delays, about my sister's house being too small for 5 people. Every answer made me sound more unstable. Then Frank asked, are you currently taking medication for anxiety or depression? Number, why not? Because I can't afford it. Have you been diagnosed? I started to answer. Then my chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Not like I was nervous. Like actually couldn't pull air into my lungs. The room tilted. My hands went numb. Marissa? David's voice sounded far away. I tried to stand. My legs buckled. The next thing I remember clearly was the ER. EKG. Blood pressure. Questions I couldn't answer because my brain wouldn't work. The doctor came in after 2 hours. Severe anxiety attack. Your heart is fine, but your stress levels are dangerous. She wrote a prescription, handed it to me. Take 1 daily. It'll help. How much? She checked her computer. With your insurance. Oh, you don't have insurance. Number. About $140 a month without it. I stared at the prescription. I'll find a generic, she said quietly. Still, $110. I left without filling it. That night I told David I was taking the plea deal. He came to my sister's apartment. We sat in the car in the driveway because I couldn't say it inside. Couldn't let Devin hear. I'm taking it. I can't do this anymore. The emails. When, David? The trial is 10 weeks away. CPS might take my kids in 2 weeks. I'm drowning. David was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I'm filing an emergency motion tomorrow. We're going public with those emails. What if it doesn't work? Then you can take the plea. But give me one more chance. I wanted to say no. Wanted to end this. Wanted to just survive. But I nodded. Okay. That night, Rebecca Torres got an anonymous text. Check Pacer tomorrow morning. Big filing in Chen case. This is your story. She told me later she didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. The next morning, David filed his emergency motion. I didn't know until Rebecca called me at 7 a.m. It's live. The motion is public record. I'm reading it right now. She was quiet for a minute. I could hear typing. Marissa, this is huge. He attached the emails, all of them. The one where the engineer warns about false positives. The VP saying to hide it from clients, everything. What does that mean? It means anyone can see them now. Every reporter, every lawyer, everyone. Rebecca spent the entire day verifying sources, calling Dr. Okonkwo, calling David, double-checking every detail. At 4 p.m., the Metro Daily Chronicle posted the story online. Exclusive, AI company hid accuracy problems from police. The article included excerpts from the emails, quotes from Dr. Okonkwo explaining how the system was trained primarily on white faces, my hospital records showing I was 12 miles away during the robbery, and a photo of me holding Marcus in the NICU. My sister saw it first. Marissa. You need to see this. The article had been up for 2 hours, 12,000 shares already. The comments were different this time. This woman was in jail for 11 days while pregnant because of a broken computer. The company knew it didn't work and sold it anyway. How is this legal? Local TV stations picked it up for the evening news. I watched 3 different broadcasts, all of them leading with the same story. A local woman wrongly arrested due to faulty facial recognition software. They showed the ClearSight AI building, the police department headquarters, then my face. Marissa Chen spent 11 days in jail, gave birth prematurely, and has been fighting these charges for 8 months. Tonight, newly discovered emails revealed the technology that identified her may have been flawed from the start. By midnight, the Tribune ran it. Regional paper with 200,000 readers. The next morning, ClearSight AI's stock dropped 7%. David called me at 9 a.m. We did it. The story is out. I sat on my sister's couch, staring at my phone, watching the shares climb, reading comments from strangers who finally believed me. For 8 months, I'd been screaming that I was innocent. For 8 months, nobody listened. Now, suddenly, everyone cared. Not because I'd said anything different, not because the evidence had changed, but because it was public. Because hiding it would cost them money, I should have felt relieved. Instead, I just felt tired. The day after the story broke, chaos erupted. David called me at 8 in the morning. The police union just issued a statement. They're defending Halloran, saying he followed proper procedures. Of course they are. But there's more. I have a contact at the city attorney's office. She tipped me off. The city manager called an emergency meeting this morning. Police chief, city attorney, the DA, all of them. What are they meeting about? You, and how much you're about to cost them. He explained it to me while I fed Marcus his bottle. The city attorney was reviewing every case where ClearSight AI was used, found 11 cases in 14 months, all of them relying heavily on the facial recognition. If even half of those people were wrongly arrested, the city is looking at 15 to 40 million in lawsuits. Good. The city manager is asking the DA how strong their case against you is, if they go to trial. What did she say? David was quiet for a second. My contact overheard her. The DA said your alibi is solid, that they're relying entirely on facial recognition that's now compromised. She said the case is weak. So they'll drop the charges? Not yet. City attorney says if they settle now, it looks like admission of guilt. They want to wait until after the emergency hearing. When is that? 6 days. 6 days. Less than a week until a judge would decide if those emails mattered. ClearSight AI is sending their own legal team. 3 lawyers flying in from DC just to defend their technology. I felt sick. They're really going to fight this? They have contracts with 47 police departments. If they lose here, all of those contracts get challenged. They'll fight as hard as they can. That afternoon, Rebecca called. The ACLU just filed an amicus brief supporting you, and there's a protest being organized for the hearing. A protest? Local Civil Rights Coalition. They're calling it Justice for Marissa. They're expecting 200 people. I sat down. 200 people. Strangers. Coming to support me. Why? I asked. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Because your story isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone who's ever been failed by a system that values technology over people. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those 11 other cases. 11 other people arrested because a computer said they looked like someone else. How many of them were innocent? How many took plea deals because they couldn't afford to fight? How many were still in jail right now? 6 days until the hearing. 6 days until the world would see those emails in court. 6 days until I'd find out if any of this mattered. During those 6 days, David used Rebecca's article to reach out to the other victims. The anonymous email sender finally revealed himself. His name was Jerome Williams, 34 years old, software developer. David called me after meeting with him. He was arrested 8 months ago, bank robbery, facial recognition identified him. He spent 3 weeks in jail because he couldn't afford bail, lost his job, has a 4-year-old daughter. Did he do it? No, he was at his daughter's preschool during the robbery, had witnesses, but his public defender told him to take a plea deal, said fighting it would take months and he couldn't afford to stay in jail that long. So he pleaded guilty? Yes, now he has a felony record, can't work in tech anymore, can't even get hired at Best Buy. My chest tightened. He was innocent and he pleaded guilty? Because the system gave him no choice. Jerome connected David to 2 other people. Sandra Okafor, 45, nurse, arrested for car theft. Charges eventually dismissed after 5 months, but she'd already lost her nursing job, took 18 months to get relicensed. Kevin Tran, 29, teacher, arrested for assault, took a plea deal, now on probation. All 3 were people of color. All 3 had facial recognition as the primary evidence. All 3 had weak corroboration. David organized a meeting at a community center. I walked in and saw them sitting around a table. Jerome, Sandra, Kevin, 2 others I didn't recognize. They all looked at me. You're Marissa, Jerome said. I nodded. Your lawyer said you found emails. Proof the company knew the system was broken. Yes. Sandra leaned forward. Can you use them to help us too? I looked at David. We're trying, he said. But first we need to win Marissa's case. Prove the system is fundamentally flawed, then we can challenge yours. Kevin shook his head. I already pleaded guilty. I can't take it back. You might be able to, if we prove the evidence was faulty. We sat there for 2 hours, sharing stories, comparing details. All of us arrested because a computer said we looked like someone else. All of us facing charges we didn't deserve. All of us fighting a system that believed machines over people. At the end, Jerome asked, Are you going to the hearing? Yes. Can we come? All of us? David nodded. Yes. The judge needs to see this isn't just about one person. This is systemic. We all agreed to show up together. 5 people. 5 lives destroyed by the same technology. 5 people who finally had a chance to fight back. 6 days later, the courtroom was packed. I got there early with David. Jerome, Sandra, and Kevin met us outside. We walked in together. Every seat was full. 4 TV cameras in the back, 12 reporters with notebooks. Clearsight AI's 3 lawyers in matching suits sitting behind the prosecutor. Judge Santos walked in, the same judge who'd ordered the emails released. She looked at the crowded room and didn't seem surprised. David stood. Your Honor, I've filed an emergency motion based on newly discovered evidence showing Clearsight AI knowingly sold flawed technology to law enforcement. He called Dr. Okonkwo first. She walked to the stand calmly, explained the technical bias, showed charts of the training data, 78% white faces, 11% black faces. The system fails more often for people who look like Ms. Chen. The company's own engineers documented this. Then David called Jerome. Jerome's hands shook as he raised his right hand to swear in. Tell the court what happened to you, Mr. Williams. I was arrested for bank robbery 8 months ago. Facial recognition said I was the robber. I wasn't. I was at my daughter's preschool, but I couldn't afford bail. I spent 3 weeks in jail, lost my job. My public defender said if I fought it, I'd be in jail for months waiting for trial, so I pleaded guilty. To a crime you didn't commit? Yes. Why? Jerome's voice cracked. Because I have a 4-year-old daughter. I couldn't leave her for months. I couldn't risk losing at trial and going to prison for years. The DA stood up. Patricia Nguyen. She'd been quiet until now. Your Honor, even if the system has higher error rates for certain demographics, that doesn't mean it was wrong in this specific case. Ms. Chen's resemblance to the suspect is remarkable, 94% confidence. She called Detective Halloran. He walked to the stand like he owned it. Detective, did you follow proper procedure in Ms. Chen's arrest? Yes, the facial recognition system identified her. That's our evidence collection protocol. David cross-examined. Detective, did Clearsight AI ever inform you that their system has a 34% higher false positive rate for Black and Asian women? Halloran hesitated. No. If they had, would that have changed how you used the technology? I would have requested additional corroboration, but you didn't. Because they didn't tell you. The Clearsight AI lawyer shot up. Richard Pembroke, gray hair, expensive suit. Objection. These emails are being taken out of context. Our system meets all industry standards. Judge Santos looked at him. Mr. Pembroke, did your company inform police departments about the racial disparity in accuracy rates? We provided all accuracy statistics required by our contract. That's not what I asked. Did you specifically inform them about the 34% higher error rate for women of color? Pembroke's jaw tightened. That data was internal and preliminary, not finalized for client disclosure. So no. Your Honor, that's enough. I'm taking a 20-minute recess. She left. I sat there shaking. Jerome put his hand on my shoulder. You did good. I didn't do anything. David did everything. No. You fought. Most people don't. Sandra leaned forward. I didn't. I just waited for them to dismiss my charges. Took 5 months of my life. I was too scared to fight. Kevin nodded. I took a plea because I thought I had no choice. You didn't, I said quietly. None of us did. That's the point. We sat there. 5 people. 5 lives destroyed by the same broken system. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel alone. During the recess, I needed air. I walked outside. Jerome and Sandra followed me. The protest had grown. Over 500 people now. Signs everywhere. AI isn't justice. Stop racist tech. Free Marissa Chen. People chanting. Drop the charges. Drop the charges. I stood there watching. Strangers fighting for me. A woman in a suit pushed through the crowd. Diane Foster. City council member. I'd seen her face on election signs. She walked straight to the TV cameras. This technology was supposed to make us safer, she said, her voice carried across the plaza. Instead, it's terrorizing innocent people. Marissa Chen spent 11 days in jail while pregnant because a computer made a mistake. How many others? How many more before we admit this system is broken? The crowd roared. The cameras stayed on her. Live broadcast. I could see the red lights. Inside the courthouse, David's phone buzzed. He showed me the screen. Text from his contact at the city attorney's office. City manager just called emergency meeting. Exact quote. We can't afford this PR nightmare 3 months before elections. Jerome read over my shoulder. They're scared. Good, Sandra said. We went back inside. The courtroom felt different now. Tense. Electric. Judge Santos returned. Everyone stood. She sat down, looked at both sides. Before I rule, does either party wish to make additional statements? The city attorney stood up, whispered something to the DA. Patricia Nguyen's face was tight. She didn't want to say what she was about to say. Your Honor, the state requests a brief continuance to review the new evidence. David shot up. Objection. The state has had this evidence for days. Judge Santos held up her hand. How long of a continuance, Ms. Nguyen? 24 hours. Denied. I'll hear your response now, or I'll rule without it. Patricia sat down. The room went silent. We were going to get an answer. Today. Judge Santos returned to the bench. The courtroom went silent. She looked at me, then at David, then at the packed gallery behind us. This court is deeply troubled by what has been presented today. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I've reviewed Miss Chen's alibi, hospital records with timestamps, parking garage receipts, pharmacy transactions, all of it proving she was 12 miles away during the robbery. She paused. I've reviewed the internal emails from ClearSight AI. Emails showing their engineers knew the system had a 34% higher false positive rate for Black and Asian women. Emails showing they chose not to disclose this to law enforcement clients. The ClearSight lawyers shifted in their seats. Ms. Chen, you spent 11 days in jail while 7 months pregnant. You gave birth prematurely. You've been fighting these charges for 9 months, and the evidence suggests ClearSight AI's technology failed here, and potentially in many other cases. I couldn't breathe. All charges against Ms. Chen are dismissed with prejudice. The courtroom exploded. My knees gave out. David caught me before I hit the floor. I was sobbing. Couldn't stop. 9 months of holding everything together, and it all came out at once. Judge Santos wasn't done. Furthermore, I'm ordering an evidentiary hearing on whether this facial recognition system should be admissible as evidence in any case within this jurisdiction. The ClearSight lawyer shot up. Your Honor, we object. Your objection is noted and overruled. Mr. District Attorney, I strongly suggest you review every case that relied on this technology. She looked directly at Patricia Nguyen. Every single one. The gavel came down. This hearing is concluded. Outside, the crowd was chanting, media everywhere, cameras in my face. Rebecca pushed through. Marissa, can I ask? I couldn't form words. Just kept crying. Jerome hugged me, then Sandra, then Kevin. Strangers I'd met 2 weeks ago who understood what this meant. That night, I watched the news from my sister's couch. The police chief's face filled the screen. After careful review, we're temporarily suspending our contract with ClearSight AI pending further investigation. Temporarily, suspending, pending review, not canceled, not admitting fault, just suspended. I looked at David. It's not over. No, but you're free. The charges are gone. They'll keep using this system on other people, in other cities, unless someone stops them completely. David nodded slowly. Yeah, they will. Marcus was asleep in my arms. Devin curled up next to me. I'd won. But winning meant other people were still losing, and I couldn't just walk away from that. The week after the charges were dismissed, I couldn't celebrate. I was too exhausted, too broken. The CPS case was still open. They moved slowly, didn't care that the criminal charges were gone. They had their own timeline, their own standards. Medical bills were still in collections, $23,000, agencies calling every day. My sister's house was still at risk. The bail bondsman wanted his $12,000 fee. Wouldn't give back a penny, even though I'd won. Devin came up to me that first night. Does this mean the police won't come back? I didn't know how to answer that. I think so, baby. You think so? The judge said I didn't do anything wrong. But they thought you did before. He was 8 years old and already understood that the system could be wrong. That was its own kind of damage. Marcus was 8.5 months old now, still behind on his milestones. The NICU doctor said he'd need physical therapy, help him catch up. Insurance denied it. Not medically necessary. $180 per session, twice a week. I couldn't afford it. David came over 3 days after the hearing. You can sue for false arrest. Civil case. It'll take years, but you'd have a strong claim. Years? Yes. Civil court moves slowly. I thought about fighting for years. More lawyers, more courtrooms, more time away from my kids. I don't know if I can do that. I understand. Jerome called that afternoon. Then Sandra. Then Kevin. We should meet. All of us. We started meeting weekly at a community center. Support group. 5 people who understood what it meant to be failed by a system that was supposed to protect us. Week 1, Jerome brought his daughter, 4 years old. She drew pictures while we talked. Sandra talked about losing her nursing license, the 18 months it took to get it back, how she still flinched when she saw police cars. Kevin was still on probation. Had to check in with his probation officer every week, even though his conviction was vacated. It's like they can't admit they were wrong, he said. They just moved the goalposts. We all nodded. We knew exactly what he meant. 3 weeks after the hearing, the city attorney called David with a settlement offer. $125,000. No admission of wrongdoing, and a non-disclosure agreement. David came to my sister's apartment to explain it. They want you to sign an NDA, means you can't talk about what happened, can't help other victims, can't speak at city council meetings. And if I don't sign, no settlement. You'd have to sue. Civil case, could take 3 years. I thought about it for 1 day, then told David no. The money doesn't cover my medical bills anyway. And I'm not staying quiet. 3 weeks later, they came back. $340,000, still with the NDA. I was tempted. That money could pay off everything. Could get me out of my sister's house. Could give my kids a fresh start. But Jerome called that night. I signed an NDA, he said. $50,000. Seemed like a lot at the time, but now I can't even tell my story. Can't warn other people. Can't help you or Sandra or Kevin. I regret it every day. Sandra had signed one too. $32,000. She couldn't talk about her case at all. Kevin couldn't sue. Still on probation from his plea deal. No legal standing. I told David no again. No NDA. I don't care if we get less money. I need to be able to talk about this. David smiled. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. The city came back one more time. Week 48, $680,000. No NDA, but no admission of wrongdoing either. They'll never admit fault, David said. That's standard. But this is substantial money, and you can still speak freely. I accepted. The paperwork took 6 weeks. Lawyers reviewing every clause, every word. When it finally cleared, David took his 25% contingency fee, $170,000. The bail bondsman got his $12,000, non-refundable. That left $487,000, more money than I'd ever seen in my life. But it couldn't buy back the 11 days in jail, couldn't undo Marcus being born 8 weeks early, couldn't erase Devin's nightmares. It was just money, and money doesn't fix everything. 4 weeks later. Week 50, City Council held a meeting on police technology. I sat in the back row with Jerome, Sandra, and Dr. Okonkwo. The agenda said, review of facial recognition contract. The police chief went first, full uniform, confident. We've conducted an internal review. The system has been valuable. 41 cases with successful prosecutions. He didn't mention the false arrests. Didn't mention me, or Jerome, or Sandra. Councilmember Diane Foster leaned forward. How many false positives? The chief shifted. We're still investigating that number. Still investigating? It's been 2 months since the Chen hearing. These things take time. Foster looked at the gallery, saw me sitting there. Ms. Chen is here. Maybe we should hear from her. Public comment period. I walked to the microphone. My hands were shaking. I gripped the podium. My name is Marissa Chen. 9 months ago, I was arrested for a crime I didn't commit. I spent 11 days in jail while 7 months pregnant. I gave birth prematurely because of the stress. I fought these charges for 9 months. My voice cracked, but I kept going. This system destroyed my life. I'm one of at least 11 people. How many more before you admit this is broken? I sat down. Dr. Okonkwo testified next, explained the bias in technical terms, showed the data. Then Jerome stood up. He was violating his NDA, didn't care anymore. My name is Jerome Williams. I signed a settlement agreement that says I can't talk about what happened to me. But I'm talking anyway. He looked directly at the police chief. I have a felony record for a crime I didn't commit. Because your system said I looked like someone else. I lost my career. I can't work in tech anymore. I can't even volunteer at my daughter's school because I have a record. The room was silent. The council voted. 5 members present. Motion to suspend the ClearSight AI contract pending comprehensive third-party audit. Not cancel, suspend. 3 votes yes, 2 votes no. It passed. But suspension meant the contract was still technically active. ClearSight A. I would keep getting paid while the audit happened. Outside, I told Jerome and Sandra what I was thinking. They're not admitting anything. They're just stalling. Sandra nodded. They'll wait 6 months. Do a meaningless audit. Then quietly start using it again. So what do we do? Jerome looked at both of us. We keep showing up. Every council meeting, every hearing. We don't let them forget. And that's what we did. Over the next 2 months, the DA's office was forced to review all 11 cases that used ClearSight AI. Rebecca kept me updated. She was following every development. 3 cases were still pending trial, all charges quietly dismissed, no press releases, no apologies, just gone. 2 people had taken plea deals. The DA offered to vacate their convictions. Jerome got the call first. They're vacating my conviction. Like it never happened. That's good, right? Yeah, but I lost 2 years of my career. I have debt from legal fees. My daughter spent 2 years thinking her dad was a criminal. He was right to be angry. Sandra's case was dismissed before trial. No conviction to vacate. But she'd lost her nursing license. Took 18 months to get relicensed. 18 months of no income. Kevin's conviction was vacated too, but he was 14 months into probation. Had to check in every week. Drug tests, curfew. They're terminating it early, he told us at our weekly meeting. But I already did most of it. 2 people had been convicted at trial, cases under review for appeals now, and 4 people who'd taken plea deals couldn't be found. Moved away, changed phone numbers, no forwarding address. They'd never know their convictions could be overturned. I thought about them a lot. People who gave up because fighting seemed impossible. At our support group, I said it out loud. The system is broken beyond just this technology. People plead guilty when they're innocent because they can't afford bail, can't afford lawyers, can't risk going to trial. Jerome nodded. I had a 4-year-old daughter. Public defender told me I'd be in jail for 6 months minimum waiting for trial, or I could plead guilty and go home that week. That's not a choice, Sandra said. That's coercion. Exactly. We sat there. 5 people who'd been through it, we'd won. Sort of. But winning meant understanding how many others were still losing, and how little we could do about it. The settlement money came through in month 11, $487,000 after legal fees, and the bail bondsman took their cut. I paid off the medical bills first, $23,000, gone in one payment, then I paid my sister back. $45,000. Covered the second mortgage she'd taken out for my bail, plus extra for everything she'd done. She cried when I handed her the check. I put a down payment on a small house in a better school district, $140,000. 3 bedrooms, yard for the boys. Far enough from my old apartment that I didn't see police cars on every corner. Set up a therapy fund for Marcus. $30,000. He was 9 months old now, still behind on milestones. But the physical therapist said with consistent sessions he'd catch up by age 2. College fund for Devin, $50,000. Not enough for everything but a start. Emergency savings, $50,000. So I'd never be trapped again. I donated $15,000 to legal aid. David tried to refuse it. I made him take it anyway. That left $134,000 for living expenses while I figured out what came next. We moved into the new house in December. Devin picked his own room, painted it blue, put up posters of basketball players. I enrolled at community college, paralegal certificate program, classes 3 nights a week. My sister let me work part-time at her accounting firm during the day. Answering phones, filing, $16 an hour. Marcus started therapy twice a week. Learned to roll over, to sit up. Slowly catching up to where he should be. Devin was doing better. Still seeing his therapist once a month. Still had bad dreams sometimes. But less often now. The CPS case finally closed. 11 months after they'd opened it. Unfounded allegations. No apology, just a letter saying they were closing the file. I should have felt relieved. but I kept expecting them to come back. That's what the experience had done to me. Made me unable to trust that anything was really over. I still had panic attacks when I saw police cars, had to pull over sometimes and do breathing exercises until my hands stopped shaking, couldn't walk past jewelry stores without my chest tightening. Woke up some nights convinced I was back in that jail cell, reaching for Marcus and finding empty air. The system had broken something in me, and no amount of money could fix that. But the broken parts didn't stop me from trying to fix things for others. Months 12 through 14, our support group evolved into something bigger. The Accountable AI Coalition. Me, Jerome, Sandra, Dr. Okonkwo, and Rebecca. We met every Tuesday night at the community center, started with 5 people, grew to 12, then 20. Our goal was simple: ban facial recognition for law enforcement in our county. We needed 15,000 signatures to force a ballot measure. We printed petition sheets, set up tables outside grocery stores, knocked on doors. Month 15, we counted the signatures. 12,000. We'd fallen short. Jerome wanted to keep going. We can get 3,000 more signatures, just need another month. But Sandra shook her head. 12,000 is still something. That's enough to make the city council pay attention. She was right. Month 16, the council scheduled a vote, not a ballot measure, just a vote on whether to ban the technology themselves. We showed up with 30 supporters, filled every seat in the gallery. I testified first, told my story again. 11 days in jail, premature birth, 9 months of hell. Dr. Okonkwo explained the bias, the data, the inevitable failures. Jerome testified, still violating his NDA, still not caring. The police union sent representatives, argued that facial recognition was a valuable tool, that banning it would handicap law enforcement. 2 council members agreed. We can't tie the hands of our police officers. The vote was 5-4 against the ban. We lost. I sat there feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach, but then Councilmember Foster proposed a compromise. New rules. Facial recognition could only be used as corroborating evidence, never as the sole basis for an arrest. Mandatory reporting of false positives, annual third-party bias audits. It wasn't a ban, but it was something. The vote passed 4-1. Outside, Jerome was angry. They watered it down. This doesn't stop them from using it. No, I said, but it makes them more careful. And it did. ClearSight AI usage dropped 60% over the next 6 months. Police were afraid of liability, afraid of lawsuits. 3 other people who'd been falsely arrested got settlements. $240,000, $180,000, $310,000. Not as much as mine, but enough to rebuild. It wasn't the victory we'd wanted, but it was the victory we got. 2 years after the charges were dismissed, I finished my paralegal certificate. David called me the day I graduated. I have a job offer for you. Intake coordinator at Legal Aid, $42,000 a year. What would I do? Meet with new clients. Help them understand their cases. Connect them with lawyers. You understand what they're going through better than anyone. I accepted. Devin was 10 now, still seeing his therapist once a month. Still had bad dreams sometimes, but he was on the honor roll, playing basketball, laughing again. Marcus was 2, finally caught up developmentally, running everywhere, talking in full sentences. You'd never know he'd been born 8 weeks early, but I still had nightmares 2 or 3 times a month. Woke up thinking I was back in that cell, reaching for Marcus and finding metal bars instead. Still had panic attacks when police cars pulled up behind me at red lights. Had to pull over sometimes. Do breathing exercises until my hands stopped shaking. I avoided jewelry stores completely. Couldn't walk past them without my chest tightening. Every month, I went to city council meetings, testified about criminal justice issues, bail reform, police accountability, technology oversight. Some people recognized me. You're the facial recognition lady. Some were supportive. Others thought I was anti-police, a troublemaker. I didn't care anymore. Month 26, the city officially terminated the ClearSight AI contract, switched to a different system, supposedly better bias testing, more oversight. I was skeptical. It's still facial recognition, I told Jerome at our coalition meeting. Different company, same problems. At least they're being more careful now. For now. Rebecca won a regional journalism award for her coverage of my case. She invited me to the ceremony. I went. I ran into Detective Halloran once, at the courthouse. I was there for a client intake. He was there for a hearing. He saw me, looked away, kept walking. I felt nothing, not anger, not satisfaction, just emptiness. The 2 council members who'd voted against the ban lost their re-election. New members came in, more progressive on criminal justice. The coalition kept meeting, moved on to bail reform, started a new petition. We were tired, but we kept going, because someone had to. My first day at Legal Aid, a woman walked in. Rosa, 32, holding a manila envelope like it might explode. I was arrested for check fraud I didn't commit, held 4 days, lost my job. I recognized the look in her eyes, the exhaustion, the disbelief that this was really happening. Let me see your paperwork. I read through it. Insufficient evidence, overworked public defender, bail set at $20,000. She couldn't afford it. The pattern was so familiar, it hurt. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I walked her through everything, how to document her case, what to expect at her hearing, connected her with David for representation. After she left, I sat at my desk, thought about everything that had happened. Charges dismissed, victory, settlement money, victory. But it couldn't erase the 11 days in jail, couldn't undo Marcus being born 8 weeks early. My sons were healing, but Devin still had nightmares, still flinched around police. My trauma was permanent. The panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the way I couldn't trust systems anymore. System change was partial, better rules, more oversight, but not fundamental reform. I'd helped Jerome, Sandra, Kevin, helped 3 others get settlements, but I couldn't save everyone. ClearSight AI was still operating in 44 other cities. Justice wasn't clean, wasn't complete, wasn't fair, but I was alive, free. My kids were with me, and I was helping people like Rosa navigate a system designed to crush them. That was more than many people got. I didn't choose this fight. Didn't choose to become the facial recognition lady. Didn't choose to spend my Tuesday nights at city council meetings. But now that I was in it, I couldn't walk away. I pulled up Rose's file, started making notes for David. This was the work now. Not perfect, not finished, just necessary.